What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on Arkansas Softball Central podcast. I am Kyle Sutherland alongside
the softball guru, Jared Hawthorne, and the battered Longhorn herself, Joley Mitchell. She's got a national championship ring. She did all that last year, so we're not going to give her too hard of a time on this Razorbacks winning their first ever, actually, not College World Series, their first ever series. They still need to get to the Women's College World Series. Hopefully, they'll do that.
Yeah. Slow your roll there, Pablo.
Yeah,
Hold on.
I'm getting ahead a little bit too much there, but congratulations to the Ladybacks. A massive, massive win over an outstanding Texas Longhorn team, a top 10 series win in Austin. Of course, the Longhorns took game 3, but Arkansas came out on top in the first 2. And also Courtney Deifel got her 400th win as Razorbacks head coach. So a huge weekend for the Ladybacks. They're not the Ladybacks anymore. That's long gone. The Razorbacks as they head into the SEC tournament this weekend. As you'll see there over Jared's left shoulder, right shoulder, if you're watching the screen, we will have a little bit of documentation for the Longhorns series loss this week. So we'll just give Joley a little bit of crap to start, and then we'll get right into it. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about the friend. Oh, Jared, you have something to say before I get into paying the bills?
I was going to put a big 3x5 Texas Longhorn flags across the whole backdrop behind me upside down. And I got to thinking about, well, one, that's expensive, and two, I don't want to give Texas any money of mine. So I just printed a nice little upside down horns just sit in the background over there. I promised everybody on Facebook that if we won the series, there would be some upside down horns in the backdrop for the podcast. So, Joley, I had to honor my promise.
I quit.
You quit?
I quit.
At least can you quit after this so that way we can figure it out. Hey, Jared and I have been. Hey, Jared and I have tremors from not being able to finish seasons. We have like PTSD from 2 years ago. So at least let's talk about that afterwards. But first, I'll tell you about the guys who pay for the bills for us on this show. Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, our great friends there, and the Echo Robotics mower. I was going to try to read it, but I guess I lost my place. Let me get to it really quick as I kill some time here. So the okay, there it is. The Echo Robotics mower, the future of turf care is here with the GPS Echo Robotics mower, and Athletic Field Services of Arkansas is your go-to for the state's authorized first dealer. Whether you manage a single field or multi-site complex, the Echo Robotics mower provides the same consistency you desire while also saving you extra time to devote to your busy schedule. The Echo Robotics mower maintains up to 15 acres for as often as 3 times per week, can easily be scheduled to run practices, games, and other events, plus is a quiet operation and has low environmental impact. Call today, Jeremy Rice and his crew at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218, or visit afsofar.com. All right, now that we got that out of the way, we are going to get into Class 5A tonight. Jared and Joley have done 1 through 4A, just some updates throughout those classifications, just a little bit something extra that we've added to the podcast lineup this year. We were going to do the previews for the regional tournaments, but as of Sunday night when we're recording, those are not uploaded right now, and those are must-haves. We've got to have the brackets in order to really do this show and job effectively. So Jared and I, Joley will be out for this one on Tuesday, but Jared and I will be doing that as well as a little bit of 6A and maybe touching on some of the anything that goes on in 5A this week. I know as far as conference games that are important, I've got a little list here that I've made. Tuesday, Marion and Greene County Tech out of the East. That has 2 and 3 seed implications. Greenbrier and Sylvan Hills, Benton and Bologna. That's a massive series in the Central there between Benton and Bologna for the 1 seed. Farmington and Mountain Home, and then on Friday, Greenwood and Mountain Home. So we've got a couple of final conference showdowns in Class 5A this week, along with just some more tune-up games before we get in to the state tournament. So let's get into it now. We're just going to go ahead and start. We always start 5A, I feel like, with the Central Conference, just because the Central Conference, over the past 2 seasons in particular, has made the most noise. As I said, the big note for this week is going to be Benton and Bologna on Tuesday. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, this doubleheader in the final week of the regular season came down to the 1-2 seed, and then Benton swept that. They got that 1 seed, and then Bologna, I believe, was the 2, if I'm not mistaken. But this year, we know that Benton, Bologna, Greenbrier, and Sylvan Hills are going to be the Central Conference teams. Not a surprise there. We knew that also Maumelle, BB, they were going to come in competitive. But I think that these 4 teams certainly have shown that they are not only the best out of their conference, but one of the best in the entire state. So, Jared, I'll go and start with you. It starts this week as far as the seeding, figuring out the 1 and the 2 with Benton and Bologna, and then Greenbrier and Sylvan Hills also trying to take care of business and get those good seeds as well. But nonetheless, no matter what seed you are out of this conference, you have a chance, as we had 3 teams from this league in the semifinal round last year.
Well, I'm definitely crazy impressed with Benton and what Benton's doing right now, and especially this week. They, if I'm not mistaken, got that 2-0 victory over Bryant in the rivalry battle there. But Benton's just playing amazing ball right now, and they're doing it through some injuries and having to move some kids around, and they're loaded and they've got a lot of depth, and that's been a huge plus for them. But, when you start talking about a few of the Benton players, KB Moix, I guess I never know how to say her name. One of these days I'm going to get it right. But KB Moix, she's her ability to change the game in so many ways. Like, she's batting, well into the 700s. She's crazy fast. We can't hear you, Kyle, if you're talking.
I know I did it again. I had myself muted, then I unmuted, went back. KB Moix is batting over 700 against the competition that they played. That's insane.
She is a ball player. There's no doubt about it. Sorry, fighting a head cold too, y'all. Ooh. Definitely though, she's doing a great job at shortstop. She's lights out defensively. She has crazy speed. She has the ability to hit the ball. Not only she can bunt, she can hit for power. Like, you name it, this kid can do it in every way possible. When you talk about this kid, she's just an athlete on every side of the ball. Been extremely impressed. I've watched, I think, part of 5 of their games on Game Changer. Haven't seen them in person this year, but I did see them in person a couple of times last year. Every time I see them play, this kid just blows me away. So, super impressed. And one that you've always talked about a lot, Kyle, Cameron Colclager, is just another crazy speed in the outfield, batting, middle 500s, just another do everything kid. And she's a senior, been there. She's been doing it for 4 years and just been amazing. A great career for her. Lakin Griffin, she's a junior outfielder, batting 400s. You look down this lineup, when we got some of this information from the coaches, and it's just it's a whole team's worth of an all-star squad here. And, you got Audrey DiGiovanna, Azimaro, all hitting in the 400s. Peyton Stewart's doing a great job behind the plate. She's just a beast, as a catcher, and she hits the ball really well. Lots of pop. AC Lackey, that's been a big contributor, senior there. And then Corbin Keene is a sophomore there that I've heard a lot about. I don't know Corbin personally, but I have heard her name over and over and over in travel circles and different places, and people are really impressed with her. Playing first base and playing utility spots around the field. London Burrow is a junior first baseman, another one that's one to watch from what I've been hearing. We haven't even touched on the pitching side of Benton. And when you talk about Benton, you've got to talk about Rexy Crane. Rexy Crane, the junior pitcher, 87 innings pitched. She's got a .559 ERA. Half a point of ERA. It's insane. And then in 87 innings, she's got 115 strikeouts with that lineup of who they're playing, the competitions they're playing, 115 Ks. It's insane. Because they're playing the best of the best week in, week out, all the time in that conference, playing other 6A teams. They played Bentonville 2 times this year, Bryant now, but on the non-conference schedule. Everywhere you look, they're playing a who's who of the best teams in the state. So Rexy has been amazing. The other day, when they played Sylvan, She pitched both complete games. Just went to war, did a great job, finished, and now that second game was down to the wire. It was down to the last plays, but they squeaked them both out, and Rexy just did an amazing job. I can't say enough about Rexy and how good she has been. Her changeup has got to be one of the filthiest changeups I've ever witnessed. So I absolutely don't want any part of hitting her changeup. It is nasty. So, and then Bella Villanueva, she is injured, but she was having a great season, really getting things going again until she got hurt, had to have surgery. And then London Burroughs done a good job of stepping up and helping fill some of those roles and some of those innings behind Bella. So they're doing a good job. Benton is top to bottom, loaded with hitters, loaded with great defense, loaded with speed, and some of the best arms in the game. So I can't say enough about my take on Benton and where they're at right now. So I'll let y'all throw some of y'all's opinions in on it.
Go ahead, Joley.
Real quick, I was just going to say that top 3 performers with KB 45 runs, Cameron with 30, and Lakin with 29. Clearly, they're scoring a ton of runs. And then, of course, you have Rexy throwing a .56 ERA. So, I mean, they're getting the job done. And, obviously, they're a tough team. But, I think it gets down to the wire, too. They're going to be playing the same teams. It's kind of like when I was playing in high school and it was just us and ball knob all the time, where it's like you're going to see them again, and it's a matter of, did I just do the same thing over and over? Did they get to me again? Most of the time they did. But when we did change our plan and we just played softball like we were supposed to and like we knew we could, then we did fine. So I'm really curious to see if Benton continues and if any of these other 5A Central teams are able to potentially conquer Benton. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. I mean, it really, like, when you get to state, anything can happen. And we saw it we see it every year in some classification. There's an upset or whatever. Now, not every 4-over-1 is an upset, especially once you get into the lower classifications and things like that. You get to the teams that have played, tougher competition. But once you get up to the higher class, like the 4, 5, 6A, like, there's some legit upsets every single year. I mean, Mountain Home took Benton to the wire. It was like a 2-0 game, I think, in the first round. There was a lot of other one-score games. Obviously, you're playing for seasons. Once you get to that point, it could make a feel like Jared. Remember a few years ago, Whitehall and BB. Whitehall, the 4-over-1. It was a 10 o'clock game. There's all kinds of factors that go into it. And that's going to be like, as I look, I'm just going to take a second here and I was peeking at the bracket as we were going through Benton. And like, for instance, the Central 4, which is looking like it's, if the season ended, like a lot of this stuff that we'll talk about tonight, we'll just basically go as if the season were ending today, or it was the regular season was over. It would be Sylvan Hills against Sheridan. Sheridan obviously has been dominant team. I mean, really, other than Benton, has been the most dominant team in 5A in recent memory. They've won their conference 3 years in a row. They won the state championship in 2024. They lost the state championship last year. But I can tell you that's going to be a really tough game if it ends up, regardless of who's Sheridan, because we know Sheridan's going to be the one. They're the conference champion already out of the South. So that's going to be the biggest kicker. And that's going to kind of tie into what we're going into next. I mean, you look at Greenbrier and what they've done. Tristan Mosley has been a name that I've heard a lot. Also, Lindley Thomas isn't that they're one of their top pitchers. I know we've talked about her a lot. Then you look at Bologna, and they've got 4 pitchers that they've kind of they use on rotation there. And then also, but they hit. I mean, Bologna always hits really well. You look at what Olivia Cates, Sarah Kate Steele, Linnea McLaughlin is doing at not necessarily the top of their lineup as far as their order, but their lineup as far as the stat lines and everything of who is slashing the most and all that. And then also too, Sylvan Hills. We talked a good bit the last time I was on here. We went at length about Sylvan Hills, about how they've been talented for a while now. They just haven't been able to quite get over that hump. Last year they were a victim of not getting to the state tournament, mainly just because if they would have been in any other league, they would have been a state tournament team. But now Abby Maiden's a senior going to Pitt State. Ryan Posa is a senior. She's going to Illinois State behind the dish. Her battery mate, Zamari Ball, going to Houston. So, I mean, you've got all these players all over the field that are going to play at the next level, and they're experienced, and it's all come together. So that's going to be the biggest kicker is can anybody knock, because I think that even in the whoever plays Sheridan, that's going to be a really tough game. Now, I'm not predicting it to happen, but it would not shock me if we see an all Central Final Four. I mean, at least 3 out of the 4 again. Now, we still got a week left of the regular season, so not trying to get too far ahead, but that's just where I'm at with it. I think just this league is so good again, and partly just because of some of those names I just mentioned.
Joley looked like she was about to say something there.
No, I'm just listening. I'm chilling. I'm good.
Well, a ton of those you just mentioned are great ball players. I'm elaborate just a little bit on some of the Central teams before we go over and talk about some of the others in the South and different places. On the Central teams, as you go through those, legitimately, I think any of the top 4 Central teams have a very realistic shot at making a run and maybe even winning the state tournament. I mean, it's hard to say they're not because they have just chewed each other up throughout the year and they've faced that intense, great competition in their conference. And honestly, there's only, in my opinion, 1 to 2 teams in the other conferences that can really, truly claim that level of competition and that level of play. And there's those other teams are there. There's Sheridan, and there's Searcy, and there's Greene County Tech, and there's other great teams at Whitehall, teams that are really good teams. But the depth is certainly not there in the other conferences like it is in the Central. And in the Central, they're deep, 5, 6, 7 teams deep. And so I will say this. Greenbrier out of that group, I mean, Sylvan Hills looks really good, and Greenbrier looks really good, and Bologna looks really good. But I'll say this about Greenbrier. Greenbrier has impressed me absolutely all season long. Kind of been a surprise. I had them about, 5, 6, 7 or so going into the season. And from about the 3rd or 4th game of the year on, I was like, oh, Greenbrier's for real. Like, they're ready this year. They're not saying next year's our year. They're saying this year's our year. We're going to get it. And that was one thing talking to them and talking to Coach just a little bit. They don't want to hope for next year. They want to go get it this year. That's the goal. They want to go see if they can find a way to get a state championship this year. And if I'm not mistaken, Greenbrier Benton split.
Correct.
They get the split. And I'll tell you, I have had everyone raving about Lindley Thomas and Charlie Carter and the tandem of those two and how they have complemented each other in the circle at Greenbrier. And then, of course, Tristan Mosley and Cameron Padinas and London Steplock and Ellison Miller. I mean, like, you just hear these names over and over and over about how well they're doing. So, just really impressed with Greenbrier. Of course, Sylvan's loaded with talent and a lot of kids going to play major college softball. Bologna has got a lot of good ball players. We don't have a ton of stats on Bologna. That's one thing. They're pretty good about trying to keep everything in house at Bologna and trying to be all team first and stay off of being individual stuff. And I like the team first mindset. But I do wish that we could talk a little bit more about those players at Bologna and have the stats to back it up. But I'll say this: Olivia Cates, Sarah Kate Steele, Linnea McLaughlin, and Whitley Ritchie, and those kids are doing a great job over there, and they've been really tough all year. So Central to me is kind of the place where it's at right now when we're talking about them, and I think that someone out of the Central is going to be playing for a state championship. Which team that is, I don't know, but I think that someone out of the Central is going to be playing for a state championship, and we'll see which team that ends up being. And who knows, it could be more than one, but I think at least one's going to be playing for a state championship when this is said and done.
Well, let's talk about the teams that they will be facing. So it'll be the Central and the South and the East and the West matched up. As I said, Sheridan is the South for the 3rd year in a row. I think they've actually won like 20 straight games and 40-something straight conference games. So Sheridan's the 1 seed. Whitehall is going to be the 2. And then Lake Hamilton, it's looking like Lake Hamilton and Arkansas High are going to be, because Lakeside is still in that mix a little bit. Lake Hamilton is 5 games back from first place. Arkansas High is 6, and Lakeside is 7. I mean, Jared, look, I'm just going to call it like it is. Jared and Joe, I'm just going to call it like it is. Sheridan and Whitehall are really the only two from what we've seen this season. Again, it's postseason. Anything can happen. To me, those are really the only two that I could see making it out of the first round. Right now, if you look at Whitehall, let's see. So Whitehall would play, well, I say that, then again, they're matched up with the Central. So right now as the 2 seed, they would play, crap, where'd it go? So Greenbrier. I mean, how about that for your first game? And then, oh man, yeah. So like that's going to be really tough. I mean, even if Sheridan and look, Sheridan's been a team that, you know, I think we've all, I mean, you and I, Jared, I think have both had both of them ranked all year. But look, I mean, they've got as much talent as anyone. They've got a very talented freshman pitcher in Abby Eggers that we've been very impressed with all year. But that's going to be what I think everybody, if you really pay attention to the 5A and 5A state tournament, that to me is going to be like how many teams can make it out of the South, just because. And look, we don't mean to just sit here and just continuously pump the chip, but that's just how good that league has shown to be. You know, we go off of the facts that we see. So that's, to me, I mean, we think about Sheridan and the Starrett sisters and Marley Lancaster, which Joley did a great podcast with Marley Lancaster on the player spotlight. I mean, there's so many. I know Emma Harrell's a name that I've heard a good bit this year. I think she's a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but
I actually got quite a bit of information. It was.
Go ahead. I'll let you take it.
Yeah. So on Sheridan, you know, of course, Coach Hoffman down there. I'll give him a hard time on the air. He can't defend himself. I hit him up for some information several days ago, and he forgot, and I didn't realize he didn't send it to me. And then I hit him up like 2 hours ago. So then he sent me a whole bunch tonight, like just before the podcast. But I got it. So, you know,
just let me know if Hoffman acts up. Just let me know. I'll make sure I'll whip him into shape.
So, but listen, hey, he did say we really appreciate everything you guys do. He said, you know, make sure to tell Kyle and Joley and y'all. Like, we love the fact that y'all are promoting the game and that y'all are doing what you're doing to help grow the game and promote these young ladies. Even if he was a little late getting me some stuff, you know, I like to, poke him a little bit where I can get away with it. So, of course, you know, when you start talking about Sheridan, you got to start out with Skylar Starrett. I mean, she's been a staple. Skylar's, you know, probably the fastest kid in the state of Arkansas. For sure, in a couple of categories, she's the fastest kid in the state of Arkansas. She's committed to go play for the Razorbacks. She's batting over 600. She's got a couple of home runs. She has 196 career stolen bases, 47 on the year. She has already set the state record for stolen bases, and she's piling on. So she broke the state record about almost 2 weeks ago now, and is just tacking some more on every game they play. So Skylar Starrett, absolute everything. I've seen her play shortstop. I've seen her play outfield, and I'm talking about travel and what I've seen her play because she's played everywhere. I've seen her. If you put her in the outfield, she can cover foul line to foul line because she's so fast, and she makes amazing plays, and she has a cannon arm. If you stick her at shortstop, she makes amazing plays because she's such a freak athlete, and she has so much speed, and she can just do anything you ask of her. And then when you turn around and she gets in the box, she can drop a bunt and you will never get her out. And she can, just stand in the box and hit it over the fence on you, whatever you want. Well, pick your poison because you're going to lose a lot of the times against Skylar Starrett. And then, that's big sister. You got to talk about little sister, Sadie Starrett. And Sadie's, killing it in her own right. She's, batting almost 600. She's got 3 home runs. She's already got 22 stolen bases this year. So, she's stacking them up too. Big sister taught her a little bit of something, I guess. And
she'll be SEC or P4 as well, for sure.
Yeah. Strong chance that she'll be a Power 4 kid, something in the SEC, something like that. She's doing a great job playing center field for them this year. Just those two both have pretty incredible speed. Mason Wilson has been a staple at Sheridan done a great job. She's hitting, middle 400. She's got pretty good pop in her bat. 3 home runs already this year. I think she's committed to Mississippi Christian, and she's been perfect at third base. That's one thing that's a huge deal. Hot corner, and she's 21 for 21 on the year, no errors. That's real impressive at
Knock
that
on
level.
wood.
What
Sorry.
was that, Joley?
I said knock on wood. It's a habit.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, sorry. If it's my fault, Mason, you can blame me. I'm sorry. So then, and I've heard a ton about this next kid, Marley Lancaster. I've seen her play in travel ball several times. Seen her probably twice in high school ball live. Great catcher, big arm, will set you down if you run on her. I mean, will absolutely. She'll throw you out by 3 or 4 steps. Like, it's not even going to be close most of the time. You're going to have to be really fast to have a chance. And she's got a lot of pop in the bat. She's batting over 400, but she's got 7 home runs. Marley is also a Team USA nominee, and she's already cleared the first stages, and she goes this winter for the next rounds to see if she makes the Team USA team. That's probably the 15 under Team USA team. I don't know for sure which age group, but I think that's the 15U. It might be 16U Team USA roster. So good chance that she's going to be playing for Team USA. And then Emma Harrell. Listen, I've seen this kid a ton, and I am really impressed with Emma Harrell. And she's the kid that will play anywhere on the field. Like, you can pitch her. She's a great pitcher. You can throw her in the outfield. She does a great job. She's got lots of speed. Stick her at shortstop, second. She's just going to go perform for you. Wherever you put her, she's going to go be a gritty ball player. She can slap, bunt, drop it, whatever, and then she can stand in there and hit the ball over the fence if you want her to. So she's another one of those that she's like a little mini Skylar Sterrett to me. Just a little shorter version of it. Lots of speed, ability to do just about anything you ask her. But I've always been super impressed with Emma Harrell, both as a player and just a sweet kid that seems like she's always smiling no matter what's going on. I've seen her a ton in the summer. So, and then the phenom in the circle this year, Abby Eggers. She's done a great job. She's got 101 innings pitched, 134 Ks. She's got a 1.6 ERA and a .180 batting average against. So she's come in and just been lights out. One thing I was going to say about Sheridan is I do see Sheridan being that one of the 2 to 3 teams that I see outside of the Central that have a legitimate shot to play for a state championship. Sheridan's one of my 2 to 3 teams that I think really has a chance to get to the state championship. They're playing hot recently. They're playing better. So definitely very impressed with Sheridan and what they're doing. Coach Hoffman's got to get on his game a little bit on getting me some information, not an hour before the show. No, he was trying hard. I forgot to remind him and he forgot it. So you did mention in the South, we're talking about, and we'll talk about Whitehall in just a second, but you did mention Arkansas High and Lake Hamilton, and we haven't touched on them much because they haven't had, the greatest seasons. They've been solid, but not the greatest seasons. But there's a few players that we really need to mention that we haven't got to talk about much this year. You go to Arkansas High, and there's several good kids there, but a kid that you've got to talk about that doesn't get as nearly the recognition that she deserves because of the school she's playing at, and they're not competing for state championships every year. But Anaya Arnold at Arkansas High is maybe one of the most underrated, least talked about kids in the state of Arkansas for her ability. Anaya is absolutely amazing. She reminds me a lot of the kid that we just talked about a minute ago in Skylar Sterrett and her abilities. Crazy speed, one of the fastest home-to-home times I've ever seen anywhere at a 10.6 home-to-home. Elite speed, getting around the bases. Cannon arm, big power in the bat, can drop a bunt and beat it out every time if you want her to. So like I said, we can't talk about every team, but that's a kid that doesn't get to get mentioned a lot because they haven't been competing in the state championship.
We've
But
talked
she
about
is
her for years. She's legit. I mean, she
a
is really,
phenomenal
really
athlete
yeah.
down there, and definitely deserves a mention. And I'll tell you another really good athlete down there that's been this year's been really tough. She's been having to be in the circle because they lost Macy Lee, who was a great pitcher forever at Arkansas High and kept them in the conversation for playing in state. She graduated last year and she's at East Texas Baptist now. But Jewel Smart is a really good ball player that is normally an outstanding outfielder and hitter and just, a great little ball player. But she's had to live in the circle this year because, somebody's got to pitch. And so it's been a little different year for her, but she's another really good player there. Over at Lake Hamilton, got to mention Reese Lackey, big time bat, big time power. Michaela Miller, that's a National Park commit coming in next year to play with Joley over at National Park. Michaela Miller, possibly the second or third fastest kid in the state behind Skylar Sterrett. Just insane speed.
Yeah, she was thinking about going to, or I know she visited UCA for track. So yeah, I mean she's
Well, I can't remember, but I think that Michaela might have been the hurdles champion when Skylar was the 100 champion or something like
probably. That. Yeah, probably.
And I may be way off. That's just from way back memory, but it seemed like one of them won like the sprint and the other one won like the hurdle, but crazy speed. Michaela's got crazy speed. And there's several other really good ball players over at Lake Hamilton. But those two, you got to at least mention their name because we're talking about 5A, trying to get a few kids that really deserve to be mentioned in there. Those two, Michaela's great speed, big arm, can play anywhere on the field. And Michaela Miller, and lots of pop in her bat. And Reese absolutely can just knock the cover off the ball. So definitely some good kids at those schools. Now, do I give Lake Hamilton and Arkansas High any chance of being in a state championship? Probably not. And I'm not trying to be mean or anything. They're just not quite playing at that level this year. But they've got some really impressive athletes at those schools. And then we'll get back to the one that we haven't talked about. And I've got a little info, and I think y'all got some too. But we definitely need to talk about Whitehall too. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go. Whitehall was I was really interested to see them play this year because I knew that they were going to have a lot coming back. Bethany Roper, that's the kid. I mean, Bethany Roper, I know Reese didn't play for Lake Campbell. She was playing travel for a couple years, but I mean, between the 26s, Skylar, Reese, Michaela, Anaya, and Bethany, I feel like that's 5 that we've talked about at length for 4 years now. And, Sophie Stone's another one in there. I know you've probably got a few more names than I do, but I was interested to see them coming into this season because of the way that last year ended. Bethany was really sick. They beat Valley View, I think 7-6 in the first round. They got blasted pretty good in the quarterfinal round, but I know Bethany, and I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I would have liked to see had they not had the sicknesses that they had, because she was one of them, Bethany, and then the other ones as well. But it was just one of those that is like, man, this was a pretty solid team, but I would have liked to see, I think it actually was Benton that beat them, the eventual state champion. So Benton would have still won that game probably, but maybe just a little bit more competitive. And then you look at them this year, and their only 2 losses in conference play are to Sheridan, who's on that crazy streak, as I said a second ago. So I think that they've got some, and look, I look no further than Bethany Roper's freshman year when she was in the circle, and they upset a really, really, really good BB team that year with 2 stud pitchers in the state. That was Kiki Pickens and all them. That's their senior year. So I again, if they were up against the East or the West, I would maybe think possibly a deep run, maybe a deep run, but at least get into the second round. It remains to be seen with who they're going to be going up against, regardless of what team from the Central it might be. But still, I think that this is a team that could possibly do some damage. They've got a lot of experience and talent.
Well, I will say I've always been super impressed with Bethany Roper. Haven't seen her as much in the last year or two in the travel world, but a year or two prior to that, we saw her a lot in the travel world in the summers. And actually, I was there one day when she got, I I can't remember, but I believe she might have blown an ACL like her 8th or 9th grade year, pitching against our team. She definitely had a knee injury and had to come out of the game. It was bad. She planted on a pitch and it popped. And but she was always a very impressive. She's long framed, just always seemed to have that big whip that she could just generate a lot of velocity. Definitely been very impressed with her through her high school career. She's done a great job there, and she not only is an exceptional pitcher, she's got 58 innings pitched with 67 Ks, and I don't have her ERA, but I think her ERA is like 1.2 if I pieced it together right looking at it. I don't have the actual stat, but it's somewhere around that. And then she's bats, middle 400s or 500s, and her on base is almost 600. And every year it seems like she has somewhere around 8, 9, 10 home runs. I think this year she may have 10 or 11 home runs. She's just one of those kids that can do it all. She's a great pitcher. She's a great hitter. Always been super impressed with Bethany, and she's committed to Louisiana Tech. And then I'll tell you the one that I've heard their coach. I've heard a lot of parents. I've heard several other travel coaches talk about who has been really impressive this year for Whitehall, and that's Allie Rushing. Allie Rushing, and I think she's playing first base mostly for them. Big tall kid that can absolutely murder a softball. I mean, murder a softball. We have been a victim of her murdering a couple of softballs in travel ball, and she's one of those that you stay away from. Kind of like Kendall Watson. You don't want to throw her the ball. So you got to live away in the other box or somewhere that it's hard for her to generate power. So, but Allie Rushing's done a great job. She's batting almost 600. Has right around she's batting middle 500s, and she has a 600 on base percentage. Emma Ratliff is a senior catcher there. Does a great job behind the plate. She's really good at blocking. Got a good arm. Hits with power. And then several names. Of course, we've talked about Sophie Stone. She's always been a very solid ball player and just competed really well for Whitehall. I think she's senior this year. But some of the names that I wasn't familiar with, that when I was talking to their coach, he said some of the freshmen to watch this year and the ones that we'll be talking about in the next few years. Addison Barnell, Carter Ayers, and she's another arm behind Bethany Roper. And then Paisley Irvin. And then we have junior. You have a junior. I missed her name. I think it's maybe Lindley Eubanks. I don't know if you have their roster pulled up or not, Kyle. Her last name is Eubanks. I just had an initial written down. I don't know. I missed getting her name written down, but I think it might be Lindley. But she's another one that has done a great job this year for Whitehall. She's hitting well. She's hitting in the upper 300s and doing a great job for them. The one thing I'll say when I talked to their coach, he said, we've got a good mix top to bottom. He said, other than having to kind of fight through some injuries and stuff, we've had a good year. And they're doing a good job of hitting the ball across the board. And Bethany has definitely done a great job in circle. And then Carter Ayers has filled in well behind her in the circle. Whitehall, to me, early in the year, up to the middle of the year even, looked like they could be a top 3 to 4 team in the state. And I still think they have the talent and everything. They just fought 2 or 3 injuries and had to move some people around and stuff. They cost them a couple of ball games, or they might have been a little more dangerous than they have been so far.
Well, Joley, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think just the whole general, everything, because I haven't said anything in a hot minute, but just me just listening. I think most of these teams were always good, especially back in my day too. So I'm not really shocked that they're all still this great. I think I'm actually going to be very interested if everything lines up for, what'd you say, it was Greenbrier is going to play Whitehall, and that's who they mesh up with. So, I mean, yes, should Greenbrier win the game? Probably, but I mean, that's actually a huge challenge for them too. They might be a little more talented and they're the better team, but you have to play Whitehall. You can't just slack off, and this is the chance for you to go to the state tournament or not. So I'm very curious to see how that game goes. And I think just overall, like, yeah, we could talk about 5A Central all we want, but I mean, yeah, like some of these other teams you're hearing about them with the Sheridan and the Whitehall, and I'm sure we'll get to a few more in just a second. But I mean, it is hard to count out. I feel like just Central Arkansas softball in general, and then of course you have your Northwest where like there's a hotbed for them up there with the 6A schools. But most of these smaller schools, and then up to 5A, Central Arkansas is a hotbed for really good softball teams. So I'm not shocked at all. And hopefully in the future, like there will be some other teams out of the South that'll, maybe disrupt it a little more, or maybe those teams get stronger, that Sheridan gets stronger and Whitehall gets stronger. And I don't really anticipate that these teams around here are going to get any weaker anyway. So it's just a challenge for everybody else outside of 5A Central.
If the season, like I said, if the playoffs started, well, we released this on a Tuesday. If they started this Tuesday, it would be Benton against Arkansas High, Sheridan against Sylvan Hills, then Whitehall against Greenbrier, and then Bologna against Lake Hamilton. That's what it would be if it started. I'm doing that off the top of my head. I believe that is correct, just looking down the bracket here. So then we'll go to the West. We'll go ahead and start there. The West is probably the most interesting one out of all of the. We've talked a lot about Farmington this year. We've talked a lot about Greenwood. Mountain Home is the 3 seed. It's looking like they're pretty much a shoe-in for the 3 seed. They've been a little banged. They had like 7 or 8 returning starters, did Mountain Home this year. They've had a couple of key injuries, but they had that upset against Arkansas. Arkansas High was like a 2 seed, I think. They were a 2 seed behind Sheridan in 2024, like Jared with Macy and Anaya and all them. And then Mountain Home upset them in Mountain Home or Harrison or wherever that was played. But above them, you've got Farmington currently a game ahead of Greenwood for first. And Farmington is that really young team. We've talked about them this last year. They were referred to as the baby birds. A lot of those baby birds are now sophomores. They rely on 2 key freshmen, I know right now. We'll talk about some of those names here in just a second. But then you go to Greenwood. That you look at some of these names, Jared, and they feel like we've been talking about them forever, like the seniors, Daisy Parker and Lakin Dawson and Alyssa Lovell. Also, Emily Creason's a junior, but I feel like we've been talking about her forever. So many of these names, and it makes sense why the one loss that Farmington does have in conference play is to Greenwood, and Greenwood is that experienced team in the league, while Farmington, as I said, is like the youngsters. And so, I mean, when you look at Farmington, and I talked to Coach Shiree before the season, and his daughter Reed Shiree is actually, which his daughter Reese, who graduated in 2024. Was one of the top competitors of any athlete, male or female, that I've ever covered. When you look at her as a center fielder, when you look at what she did on the basketball court for all those state championship teams, I mean, Reese is one of the top competitors I have ever covered in all of athletics, college, high school, whatever it may be. And then her sister is Reed is batting .517 for the Lady Cardinals right now. And her really good friend, I think actually her best friend and classmate, Hadley Hayes, which I'd heard a lot about Hadley coming in. She's an IP kid, Iowa Premier Dickel kid, where Brinkley Bowerton came from. I think that's where Alyssa Houston came from. They've had some really top players for them. I mean, guys, Hadley Hayes might be the underclassman of the year in Arkansas right now. When you just look at the stats alone, I don't think that she was expected to be their ace. I know that they were going to put her at 3rd as well, but she's just done so well. And she's batting .446. It says on here 7 home. I think she actually has. I actually saw something else where she had 8. But either way, between 7, 8, 9 home runs. And I mean, 89 strikeouts. I mean, she is just absolutely killing it this year. I mean, what she's doing both in the circle and at the plate, she's up there for an underclassman of the year award, I would say. Definitely up there in the semifinalist, finalist. Tatum Rakoff, Kel Jones, Destiny Martin. We talked about Destiny for years out there in the outfield. Emma Gore. I mean, you just got so much youth on this Farmington team, and you've got it that's ultra talented. I still think Farmington is a year away from truly. I think next year that they're going to be up there with Benton and some of those central teams as the favorites for the 7A. I'm talking about football for the 5A state championship. I think they can maybe win a game, maybe get a little bit of a deep run, but I'm still not ready to put them in that category with like Benton and Greenbrier and Bologna yet. But then also too, that Greenwood team with a lot of different experience. And also, at the 4 seed, you can't forget about Siloam. Alma is still in the mix as well. I think Russellville actually might be too. I haven't done the math as far as like runs scored and everything, but Siloam Springs has improved really well. And right now, if the season ended, they'd be the 4 seed.
Well, I'll say this with, and you named off several of the names for Farmington, and I'm glad you did because I sent y'all the notes on Farmington, and then I didn't even put them in my print for my notes. I still had them in my text messages, and I didn't get them printed. That was on me. But when when you're talking about Farmington, absolutely youth is the word with them. Not that they don't have some good upperclassmen, but they're young overall as a team. And I do believe you're spot on that with the youth for Farmington. I think they made a pretty good turn this year, and Hadley Hayes has really come on this year, and they're looking good. I think they have exactly what you said. I think they get a game or two in the state tournament, maybe even a little deeper. I don't think they're quite. And I'll eat this if they make the state championship. I'll eat it. I'll gladly say, hey, I was wrong. I think they're like maybe one game short of a state championship caliber right now. But next year, I do believe they may be a top 3 to 4 team all season long next year with who they have returning. Some that I've heard that they have coming in as freshmen. I think Farmington's year next year is going to be real dangerous. And but then when we start talking about Greenwood, man, I'm gonna tell you what, we're gonna have to spend just a minute on this one kid before we talk about any other part of Greenwood. Emily Creason has absolutely just gone off unhinged this year at the plate. She's been an amazing player, period, at Greenwood, but she's killing the ball. She hit 3 in one game at one point. Hit 3 home runs in one game. She's got either 14 or 16 on the season. I think at the point that we got stats, it was 14. Maybe she's hit 2 more since then. She's definitely going to be pushing towards 20-plus home runs on the year. And just is an absolute wall behind home plate. And I have seen this kid a ton. We see her relentlessly in the summers. Like, we play them a lot. And they have a really good team on their travel team. And I'm going to tell you, that kid, you just don't hardly throw a ball by her when she's behind the plate. Unless you got to throw it several feet away from the box for her not to do some kind of way of blocking it. I mean, she's like a hockey goalie back there blocking shots. It's crazy. She blocks amazing. She has a rocket arm, one of the best arms from behind the dish I've seen anywhere. She'll back pick you at first or third. She'll throw you out at second. If you're on the bases, you better have your head on a swivel because she might fire something at you. And then this year, she's always been a great hitter. This year, she has turned a corner and has become a truly elite hitter, probably one of the top 5 hitters in the state of Arkansas this year. I won't say that career-wise she's that, but this year she's probably one of the top 5 hitters in the state of Arkansas. Just amazing at the plate this year. Daisy Parker has been one we've talked about for several years. Great ball player, can do it all. Do it all shortstop kid, solid hitter. Just absolutely, she's one of those kids that lays out for everything. Like, I mean, balls in the hole. No, she laid out and got it and pulled it back and went and got it out. She's just one of those kids that plays her heart out. Alyssa Lovell has been a great pitcher for them for 2 or 3 years. We've talked about her. And I'll tell you one that has recently I've heard a lot more about, and that's Lakin Dawson. I'd heard of Lakin Dawson a little bit before that, and she was a good ball player and stuff, but definitely more recently, like the last year or so, her name has really started coming up. She's a really, really good defensive ball player. Solid hitter, but a really good defensive ball player. And then also, one I'm not familiar with on a personal level, but Ava Craner is another one that she's hitting the ball really well and doing a good job defensively too. Can't say enough about what's going on with Greenwood. They're solid. Emily Creason is just going off this year. And then they just got that win over Farmington the other day. If I'm not mistaken, was that 3 days ago? They pulled off.
It's like sometime in the last week.
Yeah, but it was a solid win too. So Greenwood's definitely one of those. When I talked about the 2 or 3 teams outside of the Central that I thought had a real chance to go deep in state, maybe even get to a state championship, Greenwood is definitely one of those I would put in that category.
Yeah, I think you look at their experience, and it's hard to deny that for sure. And Joe, unless you have something else about the West, Joley, that was gonna be a perfect seg into a point that I was gonna make about the East.
All I was going to say was I did harp a little bit on Farmington at the beginning of the year, and I got a little flack for it, but it's fine. I do agree, though, with them getting another year under their belt. So maybe this year, like making it to the state tournament, if they make it to the state tournament, just get some experience. And then, like, my advice with the girls would just be, like, to enjoy it and use this as, like, fuel for next year. Because, I mean, state tournament's always going to be kind of the same vibe where you got to show up, you've got to play, or you go home and it's over. So giving them that experience this year. Or if they just happen to just, keep on trucking through and make it to the state championship, I don't know.
Jared and I might be eating crow on live podcast.
I'm just saying, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Farmington.
I think Farmington is very capable of winning games in state tournament, 100%. Not saying they're not going to win some games there, maybe even make a pretty decent run in state. I just don't know that they're quite at that point of winning the state championship. That's the one that I'm willing to eat crow on, is if they go win the state championship, I'll call Coach Tyree and say, I'm sorry that I said.
And I'm putting a Farmington flag right here.
Yeah.
If you can rub my team in it, then I'm gonna rub yours. Okay.
Okay. We can do that. Listen, by that point, I'll have the big flag hanging behind me.
You know what? I will drive up to Farmington and make an appearance with the Farmington softball team, and I'm gonna take pictures, and we're gonna rub it all up in your face. Don't even worry about it.
Just make sure and wear your red. Wear the red that day.
Yeah.
I didn't say you're Razorback. I said you're red.
Still touchy subject.
Yeah.
By the way, I got to get on Joley's level. She's got her freaking blanket and her. I didn't even realize she just sits in a comfy chair. I've got a very comfy chair here that reclines, but I got to get on.
This is my beanbag. I'm on the
Man.
flow. I got my pillow behind me. I'm good to go. I'm set.
Man, you are set.
You guys are killing me. I mean, y'all are like bougie, and I'm like sitting here at the kitchen table.
Hey, I live in this chair. Like I live in this
chair.
Office. Like this office is my home. Like I pretty much my entire days are spent here, and I recline back in, and I got a TV over there. So it's nice.
I'll tell you who we got to talk about. We got to talk about the East. So get that segue going.
So the East. So Joley's like, come on with it. So what I was going to say about the East and experience. So right now, you do have a lot of experience at Greene County Tech. It's looking like Greene County Tech is not, unless something crazy happens, and they've got to have a lot of help on top of winning their final. I don't know. Let's see, their final series. I know they've got Marion this week. I think that might be their final one on Tuesday tonight. But as this drops on Tuesday, but it's looking like that they're not going to win their 9th consecutive East championship. So. Because Searcy did sweep them last week. Now, granted, it is worth noting that we don't know any details. All we know is that Bell Matthews, the usual ace pitcher for Greene County Tech, did not pitch in either one of those games. So that is worth noting. Callie Newberry has done a good job for them when she's been in the circle this year, but she's not their number one pitcher. And she did pitch both of those games against Searcy. So it is worth noting that. Not taking anything away from the Lady Lions whatsoever. I don't admittedly know a ton about Marion. I do know that Valley View right now so the 4 seeds are going to be Searcy, Greene County Tech, Marion, Valley View. Valley View, it's looking like that they are for sure the 4 seed, and then Greene County Tech and Marion are going to battle it out for the 2 and the 3 seed. Here's the thing about Valley View, guys. You talk about experience. They've got a lot of it. They've got about 4 or 5 seniors. I think they've got a few juniors that have played, but nonetheless, they've got about 4 or 5 seniors. So a good bit, maybe not a lot, but a good bit. Maybe that could be one of those teams that, like a 4 seed, that comes and does some damage. That's who would play Farmington, right? And so you'd have a good bit of experience against not so much experience. And again, state tournament, Joley was just talking about it. Anything can happen. So I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't expect much out of the East right now as far as maybe making it out of the quarterfinal. And again, that's mainly just, that's not disrespect. It's just I know that we've featured some of the Searcy kids. We featured some of the Greene County Tech kids. And I know a lot of these Greene County Tech kids like Sophia Gonzalez and Belle Matthews and Jordan Nailing. I've known all of them for years. And I mean, they still mash like crazy. I mean, they hit the ball but Belle will what will her availability be this week and into the state tournament? We're not sure what's going on there. So that's going to come into play. I've said it a few different times on pods this year, guys. And Searcy, look, we've got to give them their due credit. They're 12-0 in conference play. They're 17-5. This is going to be the one where it's like, I'm just kind of sitting back and watching because I don't really know in terms of if there is a true state, again, some great teams in this conference, but do we have a true state title contender? That's my biggest question coming out of the East.
Ladies first this time, Joley.
I was kind of good. Okay. Belle Matthews not being there, yes, give Searcy their credit, but I do think it makes a difference and it does shift the team chemistry for Greene County Tech. So especially there's something going on there, whatever it is. But if she's going to be available, the team, okay, then we can kind of, jump back on the ship. But if she's not, then the team's got to figure it out. I don't really like when people really ride the one person is it be all whatever it might be. But I understand it to a point, especially if that's your ace or if it's,
if it's a pitcher for sure.
If it's a pitcher for sure, I understand that. But if she's not available, Greene County Tech has got to figure it out and they got to do it fast. So they've got to have a plan in place. But this is a great opportunity for the rest of the teams to take advantage of Greene County Tech. If Greene County Tech is going to be, are they going to be on or are they going to be off, depending on the situation? Good chance for these other teams to take advantage of that and get themselves into the state tournament.
Well, I'll tell you, the team that out of the East, the team that, they, like you said, they're 12-0 in conference play. Searcy has really turned the corner this year. They've been good for 3-4 years now, done a great job of being in that top 2 to 3 spots in the conference. And, I think were they the 3 or the 4 last year? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they were they were either the 4 or they were just on the outside. I know a couple of years ago, they were like a 2 or 3, but yeah, I think last year they were 4 outside looking in.
Maybe it was the year before last. One of the years when was Abby Busby was there. She had a really good year, and I think they were the 3 then. But Searcy's been a solid program for several years. But this year's Searcy team, the one, and I've actually had 2 or 3 coaches mention this young lady, Peyton Hubbard, is throwing the ball really well for Searcy. She's 11-3 record overall. Got 100 strikeouts. Under 2 ERA. So she's done a great job in circle. Charlie Perry is hitting the ball really well, batting almost 500. Bella Rogers, sophomore catcher. Now this is one that I have had people send me stuff on. We've posted her several times, and it's several different people sent me stuff on her. Not just a parent or not just a coach, 3, 4, 5, other kids' parents are sending me stuff on her. So she's definitely doing well. Bella Rogers, the catcher there, she's hitting almost 400 and she's hitting the ball hard. I think I had her down for 5 home runs, but if I remember right, I think I had somebody send me where she hit number 6 or 7.
Number 6.
Yeah, number 6 for sure since then, if not 7. And then the freshman, Savannah Osmond, shortstop. Several people have talked about her ability on defense and what a great job she's done. And she's batting around 400. So Searcy's got some really good ball players, and they've had a good year and put it together. I don't know that I see Searcy as being a state championship team, but they're definitely good enough to get a couple of wins in the state tournament, depending on who and how they match up. Now, being the 1 seed helps them for sure. And so you're looking at where the brackets are and who it might match up be. I'm not getting to look at that right now, but depending on how the matchups fall, it may favor Searcy to get a couple of games, in the bracket to be able to win a few games here.
So they'd play Siloam Springs if the season ended today, and I like them in that matchup.
Yeah, I think that's a very good, solid matchup. Now, I will say this: Siloam Springs has a really good pitcher.
Yeah, Lola Kirby's really good.
Lola Kirby, and that's why I was trying to remember. Kirby, or Lola, I could remember. I was trying to remember. She's Lola Kirby, and then there's another good pitcher that her last name is Irby, and so I wanted to make sure I wasn't mixing those up. But yeah, Lola Kirby. I've heard tons and tons and tons about her this year. So sometimes, even though overall team, you almost want to look at that and go, oh well, Cersei's the better team. They're going to win that matchup. But you're also getting matched up with a really elite pitcher over there at Siloam Springs that could definitely change a game depending on the game he has. Not saying at all that I expect an upset there or anything like that, but I guarantee you Lola Kirby pitches a good game, whatever the outcome is.
That's a 10 o'clock game as well. Something else to keep in mind.
Yep.
Why? Can we stop playing a 10 o'clock game?
I agree.
It's awful. We hate it. We hate it. It's terrible. Nobody wants to be up that early. Stop the 10 o'clock game. Stop it.
Well, I mean, I like 10 o'clock games, but I'm used to travel ball where we start them at 8 o'clock. So
yeah, when I had to be at the field at 6:45, that's ridiculous. When I was an 8-year-old, yeah, no, we're over that. It's the same thing with school starting at 8 a.m. Ridiculous. Everybody changed the rules.
She definitely likes the college schedule, start classes at 10 a.m. Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I was at Lyft at 6:30 or 7 o'clock every morning, but that's different. Then I could go home and I could go back to bed and do my own thing until class came around at 12:30. Whatever.
Yeah.
We've definitely, throughout this process of getting to know Joley and the schedule and the podcast, she's not a bright and early, like,
oh no, the amount of
sunshine and rainbows early in the morning.
The amount of texts that I've sent her at like early in the morning because Joley knows by now, and Jared, you know this. If I don't send it right then, I'll forget. I'll completely forget, so I have to send it as soon as I think of. And so I just say, hey, just
answered by around 11 or 12. I mean,
yeah. So
sometimes I am awake. I just don't socialize or communicate before a certain hour because I'm probably going to say something I'll regret by that hour.
Well, I mean, we're not, it's not like we're ever nice to each other anyways, but
well, especially when like me and Kyle are trying to make sure that we get the graphic up for a pod before the 8 a.m. and most of the time the pods don't get posted by 8 a.m. So I'm going to say about 85% of the time Kyle calls me and I am still in bed.
Yeah.
And then I have to roll over.
That's not Joley's fault. That's YouTube's fault because YouTube's
fault. I swear I get it all done when I'm supposed to.
Yeah, she does.
Except for when she's in Texas when we're doing podcasts. But
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Anymore. No more Texas trips this year.
She was in mourning though while she was there. She was in complete mourning because of those 2 wins by the Razorbacks. And so she was just not able to function for a few days. And so it took her a couple of days to recover,
Well,
but
she'll
it's okay.
recover from it.
Hey, I'll say this: there's some really good teams. I mean, we're getting a little off subject. That's okay. That's part of what makes it fun, right? But I will say this for sure when it comes to this 5A, and there's so many teams and so many kids. We'd be on here for 3 hours if we talked about all the teams that are good in 5A and all the players that are good in 5A. And that's part of the reason that we highlight kids on the page because we can't talk about them all in the podcast, but we can, throw what they did up there and get their picture up there and give them some love in some form. And we love being able to do that. We love being able to promote players and to help grow this game and to help kids, get the recognition they deserve and gain scholarships and all those things that come with it. That's what we do this for. That's what it's all about. In 5A, I really believe that the state championship runs through the Central. Maybe not who wins it, but at least one of those teams is going to be playing for a state championship. But I also believe that there's 3 to 4 other teams that are outside the Central that have a real legitimate shot to win a state championship. Definitely Sheridan and Whitehall in that conversation, Greenwood and Farmington in that conversation. Maybe Searcy and, Greene County Tech are in that conversation. But right now, I feel like at the way that I've seen the games I've been able to watch, what I've heard from other people, Benton's going to be really tough, really hard to deal with in any form or fashion for anybody. Greenbrier is going to be really tough, really hard to deal with. Sylvan Hills and Bologna are battle tested. They've been beat up in that league. I like their chances against anyone else that you talk about outside of maybe, Benton and Greenbrier. I just those four in the Central just have seen so much competition that I think they're the most prepared for what they're going to see in the state tournament. That's just my take. Not saying that one of those teams is automatically going to win it, but those teams have definitely, seen the competition and been battle tested to get ready for that war.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, that's just until somebody. It's kind of like what we used to say about the 4A1 for a couple of years. P Ridge and Farmington played for the 24 state championship. P Ridge went last year. P Ridge and Gravitt played for it in 2023. So it's one of those, if teams continue and teams and leagues continuously prove themselves, then that's what we're going to talk about the most, because that's what demands, the most attention. And so, but yeah, like you said, it could be anybody. And once we get past this week, we'll break down once we get to the big pod for the state tournament preview, we'll break down these matchups more in detail. And then Jared and I will be back on Wednesday with the big pod for the regional tournaments that are happening this week that start off on Thursday. We'll drop that on Wednesday morning. So, Joe, unless you got anything else to add, we'll wrap this puppy up.
No, I don't really have anything, except y'all better be on your best behavior the next time we do a pod, because it won't be celebration time anymore for the Hogs. Okay.
Oh, look out! I'm
hey, listen,
stamping this.
Wait. Listen, hey, my team's sitting on the double bye right now. I don't know how that happened. They don't either. But you know what? It's not that big of a deal. So curious to see how the SEC tournament goes this week. Again, off topic, but my team's out for redemption.
Oh, I know.
Listen, all I can say is go Hogs.
Yeah. I can't. I'm not supposed to technically root for a team that I cover. It's technically against the unwritten laws of journalism, but dude, you can't hide your fandom. So,
my trophy and ring will be on next time. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know it will be.
I'm not playing any more games.
No, you gave us some freebies, so
I know. Sorry.
All right, well, that'll wrap up this week of Arkansas Softball Central podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday with much more. Take care.